Back with mega movie numbers for you all. This is where we run down physical media by the numbers. First, we go over the top 20 selling 4K Ultra HD disc of our previous week. I give you my thoughts and recommendations on every single title there. And then we get into the market share breakdown where we look at all the different disc formats, DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, see how well they're selling in comparison to one another. And then we, of course, get into speculating about how sales numbers are doing overall for physical media. But before we get into all that, of course, if you love collecting just like me and being a part of this amazing league of mega film fans, go ahead and mega blockbust that like and subscribe. That we stay entertained and up to date on all the latest physical media numbers in the future. And of course, leave in the comments below your prediction for the number one selling 4K Ultra HD disc of that week. So starting at the bottom of this list, we got Event Horizon from Paramount, which is a sci-fi horror title, which I really enjoyed if you're into that kind of genre. Next up, we got Planet Earth 3 from BB Studios. It's great to see Planet Earth 3 hanging on to this list for weeks and weeks. I heard that the 4K looks great with these kinds of nature documentaries, so I do want to check one of these movies out eventually. Next up, we got Train to Busan from Well Go USA, and this is a really good zombie foreign language film. I think it's really well done. Highly recommend that one if you're into the horror genre. Next up, we got Final Fantasy VII Advent Children from Sony Pictures, and I don't know anything about this movie. Have never ever played or seen any Final Fantasy stuff. Next up, we got Godzilla vs. Kong from Warner. I guess people are preparing for Godzilla X Kong New Empire, so that makes sense. And Godzilla vs. Kong is a really good 4K disc, just looks and sounds amazing. All right, next up, we got the Super Mario Brothers movie from Universal. This one will pop up from time to time. It's just a really popular movie for families, totally understandable. All right, next up, we got to have Army of Darkness from Universal Shout Studios, of course. To me, one of the best 4K releases of all time with all the different versions of this movie included. And it's just one of my favorite Evil Dead movies, adventure fantasy story at its finest. All right, next up, we got to have a new one, finally, with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance from Paramount. And this, I guess, is kind of a new one because it is a new release, but we have seen The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance on 4K before in a Paramount Presents line. So you're just getting a different edition of this one. But the 4K disc does look really good in my opinion. I really like this kind of Western government type of movie. You got John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart. Can't really do better than that. And it's on the shorter runtime, which I appreciate. Next up, we got Creature from the Black Lagoon from Universal. Surprised that that one popped up back on this list, but maybe it got a little bit of a discount. One of the best classic monsters, in my opinion. All right, next up, we got Edge of Tomorrow from Warner. This is a great sci-fi action story with Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt. It's an awesome time. And then we got The Marvels from Disney and Marvel, of course. I picked up the steelbook myself just because I got to collect a lot of these Marvel steelbooks. Just something about them. There's fun action moments in there. There's some comedic stuff, even though it doesn't really come together with the editing and the villain and the story. It's just kind of a hot mess, but I can have fun with it once in a while. All right, next up, we got the Batman from Warner. And man, I'm still waiting on the Batman 2 to come out. Does anybody feel that way? But the Batman 4K disc does look and sound great. So I can see why that one popped up again. All right, next up, we got Migration from Universal, a great family, just animated comedy. I did enjoy that one in theaters. All right, next up, we got Dread from Lionsgate. Of course, they did a reprint on that steelbook. I still need to get mine. Of course, it's action, gory, bloody, fun, very comic book style. So I really need that one in the collection. All right, next up, we got Creepshow from Shout Studios. To me, this has been told to be the best horror anthology story of all time. I'm just not as much into anthologies, but that's why I haven't taken a blind buy on it, but it keeps getting recommended to me, so maybe, just maybe. All right, next up, we got The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes from Lionsgate. I think this is a pretty good movie, at least the first two-thirds. The singing, the action, I did enjoy it in the theaters overall. All right, next up, we got American Psycho from Lionsgate. This one was another reprint of a steelbook, and this is just one of the best steelbooks of all time from Lionsgate. And it's a horror, dark comedy type of movie. So I enjoyed this one overall as well. Next up, we got Wonka from Warner. One fantastic musical. Timothée Chalamet is great in this movie. I really enjoyed this one. So I can see why the 4K disc is selling so well. And the steelbook looked awesome. All right, next up, we got Dune Part 1 from Warner. Part 2 is just so hot right now with Dune. I can understand why people are going back to see Part 1. And that's great to see how, the box office is affecting physical media. I love to see both of them growing together. So that's always awesome for collectors. All right, next up, we got, of course, Oppenheimer from Universal in the number one spot again. It claims number one again. And yeah, this movie just got so much award recognition. Won Best Picture. Everybody seems to really love this one. Great visuals, great sounds. I enjoy this one overall for what it is, even though I think it's a little too long and a little too talky talk sometimes. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the Manhattan Project itself, less on the politics, but it is what it is. Hey, at least it's selling so well, and that's always a win for physical media out there. I love when movies just do great out there in the open market. But there we go. Those were the top 20 selling 4K Ultra HD discs. Did you predict number one correct? You'll have to let me know that in the comments, of course. But let's get into now the market share breakdowns. So taking a look here at these home video charts, and 4Ks actually didn't drop too much, which I was surprised by. It dropped about 1%, which is still pretty good. I love seeing 4Ks at least above 10%. So that is fantastic. Even though there wasn't a lot of new 4Ks, there was just enough, I think, to keep the feel going. So that is awesome for Ultra HD collectors. Now, where we see the big hit here is actually in Blu-rays. Now, this kind of surprised me. We dropped from about 28% down to what, 22 or so percent. Wow, that was a big chunk. Blu-rays just not doing so well. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's when more new titles come out to 4K. Blu-rays take a little bit of hit because if they're released on 4K and Blu-ray, it seems collectors might go the 4K format. I don't know why. You guys got to let me know. Why do you think the Blu-rays drop so much there? And then, of course, DVDs are still the supreme emperor king, of course, because they're at 66%. I mean, oh my gosh, almost at 70%. I mean, I know they dominate physical media. They're just for the mass consumers out there. They're sold so plentiful at Walmart, and not everything gets to Blu-ray, especially not to 4K. So there's just more DVD options, and people are just probably grabbing the cheap option as usual. And so that makes sense that DVDs are going to, of course, have the majority of the market share. That's not a surprise, but getting close to the 70% marker is still a little shocking to me because you'd think more people would have upgraded to high definition by now to Blu-rays. But once again, I just don't think people know the difference. The common consumer does not, the collectors do, but there's just not enough of us out there to boost the Blu-ray and 4K numbers. But let's now get into some speculation on how physical media is selling overall out there and just kind of guess about the future. What's going to happen with physical media in the upcoming years? Well, I'm guessing physical media sales continue to decline because that just seems the trend this year overall. More people are getting into streaming. Even when I go into the Walmarts and I'm shopping for physical media, they're even advertising streaming right next to the physical media. So that's kind of interesting in itself. So they're really pushing streaming out there. So a lot of just the general consumer aren't picking up on the physical media. Once again, when they do, they go the DVD option. So I'm sure that is hurting the sale numbers overall. And yeah, we're probably just going to continue to see a decline for years and years. I don't know if it's going to rebound. I don't know if there's going to be a renaissance of physical media. I would hope so. I'm sure there will always be a collecting niche market because us collectors here will keep it strong and we'll keep buying it, of course. But it's going to be interesting to see how the numbers fluctuate in the long run. I'm hoping that the numbers rebound maybe a little bit with the spring summertime when we get some really hot 4K titles in. But with all these delays and upsets in the community, with like the James Cameron titles being delayed, is that going to hurt people collecting going forward? Are people going to be less likely to pre-order titles out there with these mishaps in the physical media world? That is another great question in itself. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully people still keep the faith in physical media and we keep rolling along, keeping collecting strong. And like I said, we just need more banger titles on 4K and Blu-ray, and that's going to help the market share numbers even out in the future. But once again, those are just my thoughts at the moment as of this recording. You guys are going to have to let me know in the comments below, where are the physical media numbers going in the future? Do you think physical media will ever have a giant renaissance again, or is it going to keep shrinking for just a collector's market? And why are DVDs just doing amazingly? I know that they're always going to be good and consistent, but why an extra jump up this time? What is happening now? Is there just not enough 4Ks and Blu-rays coming out? Let's have those fun movie conversations down below. And of course, if you love this physical media topic, Mega Blockbuster the next one right now. And thank you so much, my Mega membership supporters.